What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? Ty here from Ty Drives from yet another video, and this is the 2023 Volkswagen Tiguan in the SE R-Line black trim level. Take a look at this thing, especially finished in the whole body color as black. What a sinister looking car, all blacked out like this. Looks really good. But throughout this video, we're going to be taking a look at all of the features this vehicle has to offer. And you're going to want to make sure to stay tuned to the end, because I'm going to strap this GoPro to my head and we're going to take the Tiguan for a little test drive, and I'll let you know how it drives. But we'll get straight into it here with the details of the exterior, starting with the headlamps. Now, full LED units for your headlights, so your high and low beams, as well as your daytime running lights, are all powered by LED bulbs. Then you also have your turn signals down below. Looks very nice, all illuminated. And if you take a look down below, we can see we have a totally different rear bumper for the R-Line Tiguans. Very much so all blacked out elements. You know, as you can see, it's kind of hard to tell the differences on a black painted car on the black package, so to say. But you have lots of black painted elements down here, which would not originally become painted black without the black package. We have all of the parking sensors up front, and a little bit of chrome in the headlights and the front grille, and you also have that pretty cool little R logo within one of the grille slats. Nice pretty angular hood up front. We have the nice line that comes from the windshield all the way down and kind of circles around. Pretty neat. And we also have some flat black wheel arch extensions, because these are pretty wide tires for this car. And we also, you can see that going all the way around the wheels, so that protects your paint so no road chips or anything fly up on it. Pretty neat wheels. Now, at the looks of it, this is probably the only visual change of 2023 on the Tiguans. We get new wheels with the SE R-Line black trim. Really good looking, definitely a lot nicer than last year's 2022. And to me, in 2022, the SE R-Line black just had small wheels. Like, they weren't wide enough to fill up the wheel arches, but now they are. They're bigger tires and looks a lot nicer. So yeah, totally painted black wheels, and as you can see, they measure up at 19 inches and the tires measure 255/45. We have the R-Line badge from the fender going into the door, and the mirrors have the blind spot warning and the LED turn signals. You also have the smart key entry on both front door handles, so you pretty much just tap to lock or unlock. And taking a step back, the Tiguan has always really had this pretty neat, very prominent line coming from the front door all the way back into the quarter panel. Really good looking SUV from even back here. We have a spoiler up top, as well as the shark fin antenna. We have the roof rails and the panoramic sunroof up there too. Same LED treatment as up front with the tail lamps. So of course the tail lamps, brake lamps, and all of the turn signals and all that good stuff is all LED powered. Again, looks very good, all illuminated. You can see the only thing that's really chrome back here are the emblems. So we have the SE, the Tiguan spelled out across the trunk, and the 4Motion all-wheel drive badging across there. Right below our Tiguan badging, we have the trunk release and the reversing camera. Again, parking sensors back here just as up front, and some pretty cool looking faux exhaust finishers. I wish they were real, but they are pretty cool looking for the R-Line. And the real exhaust comes out down bottom. So, pretty good looking vehicle in my opinion, especially with this R-Line black trim level. Let me hear what you guys think in the comments. So, before we go any further with the features on the Tiguan, I did want to pop the hood really quick, just to let you guys know what kind of powertrain we're working with. And there is only one available, which is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. And it does come with 184 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. And the key number here is that 221 pound-feet of torque. And it is a pretty torquey motor. We will get to see that in the video. However, you can choose between front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive on most models, with the top-of-the-line version only coming with all-wheel drive, and an 8-speed automatic is standard across the board. And next we'll get a look at the cargo area. Now, full disclaimer, thanks to the global supply chain shortage that has been plaguing everything lately, the Tiguan will not come with a powered trunk lid until you get the SEL Premium trim. Now, in normal days, the SE or above will come with the powered tailgate, but again, you do have a credit on the window sticker of $300 because some of these vehicles are not coming with powered lift gates, and this is one of them, unfortunately. But if we get back here, take a look at that. So much room back here. You could really fit whatever you want, you know, go to Home Depot, Lowe's, put all your plywood back here. Even if you're doing mulch for a weekend, you can definitely use your car for that. There is just a lot of room back here. You even have some storage extensions to the side if you want to put some things that might roll around. And you also have these little tabs right here to either side, and that will actually fold down the rear seats from the back, which is a pretty cool feature. We have a 12-volt power outlet right over here. And you also have cargo tie downs in each corner of the trunk, so here and over there. And you also have a couple of grocery bag hangers back here too, which is a pretty neat feature. All-weather mats back here and the trunk mat too. And if you lift up the cargo floor, you can see that we have a spare tire and tools back there. But to close the trunk, if we did have the power lift gate, you'd have a little button right here. But since we don't, we have the handle that we can just pull on down. It's not too bad to close. Alright, so we're going to step inside of the Tiguan in just a moment. We're going to check out the rear cabin first. The materials back here are pretty good. We have the soft sort of leatherette on the door panels with some pretty cool contrast stitching. But it is harder to touch up here as well as down there, but the materials do get a little bit nicer up front. We got some pretty cool door handles and the window switch and quite a bit of storage down here, and the storage is all carpeted, which is pretty nice. I have a speaker back here on the door, and going along with the plentiful room in the trunk, we also have lots and lots of space in the rear seats. Now, to fold those rear seats down, we have a little tether right here where we can pull, and that will fold down the seats. Now, default, they will fold in a 60-40 fashion, but you also have a center pass-through. So if you fold this up, you can see there's a little button right next to the headrest. You press that in, and that will fold down like so for a pass-through. And you also have a center armrest to fold down with a couple of cup holders. Very nice and soft. Now if we hop in, you can see for a guy of my height, which is about 5'10", I've adjusted the front seat to a normal driving position for myself. So just a frame of reference for legroom, there is a lot. I would say probably a good 5, maybe 6 inches of legroom. But both seat backs have pockets. You have air vents back here, which you could turn on and off. The USB-C and a 12-volt power outlet back here. Pretty small drivetrain hump too, so if you had to fit somebody in the center, they'd be pretty comfortable for a little while. Yeah, pretty nice place to be back here. As you can see, a full black headliner. And in reference to the headrest, the panoramic sunroof does continue very nicely. You have LED lights back here and grab handles. And a pretty good looking front. Alright, so now that we are up front, let's check out what's going on. So we have a bit of nice, sort of a mimicked carbon fiber trim up here. And some pretty cool ambient lighting too. Pretty nice looking at night. Lock and unlock up here, and the rest of our mirror and window controls. Pretty large storage pocket again for up front too, and another speaker. We have the nice little R logo on the sill tray, and some pretty cool sporty looking pedals with the aluminum sort of metal down there. We have a hood release over here and a little bit of storage up top. And you can also see the release for the tilt telescoping steering wheel. And up top, even furthermore, we have all of our headlights and an air vent over here too. Now taking a look at the seat, it is of course full powered and I have two-way lumbar. And a pretty cool combination of the sort of same color stitching in the center and the contrast stitching on the outside of the seat. Alright, so here is the key for the Tiguan. Pretty traditional Volkswagen key. You have a logo on the back side, a little slide to release the physical key on the inside in case you need it. But here's the business end. We have the lock, unlock, trunk release, and the remote start, which is pretty nice, and the panic alarm on the side. So, pretty nice looking key, pretty traditional Volkswagen. And we have the push button start right down here next to the shifter. And all Tiguan's 2022 and newer will come standard with a full digital display. Very nice there. The R-Line specific trims will come with this very nice sporty looking steering wheel. Almost a flat bottom design and the nice dimpled leather right up here. Super comfy grips right here too, and up here as well. And some pretty cool notches on the steering wheel to really accentuate that R-Line black trim level. So we have all capacitive touch buttons over here for your cruise control, adaptive cruise control that is, and all of the buttons over here for your voice commands and various functionalities within the screen up there. You also have skipping for different songs or tracks, and over here is your volume. Just kind of swipe like so. It actually does work pretty good, but I definitely prefer physical buttons on the steering wheel at least. On the back of the steering wheel, we have a couple of stalks. One is for your turn signals, your high beams, and to turn on and off your lane keep assist. And the other is for your front and rear wipers. Taking a look at our full digital screen, the S all the way up to the SE R-Line Black will have this one. However, the SEL R-Line will have a little bit of a larger full digital setup, but this does just fine. There's quite a bit of information in here and it looks pretty good. Now take a look at the different colors you can get when you turn it into different driving modes. It'll turn different colors with each mode. You can turn it into off-road mode and it'll actually turn yellow, which is pretty neat. So that's a pretty cool feature of the instrument cluster too. But to control that screen up here, we have all of these buttons with a view. So you can click the view button and it'll kind of bring us to different screens, and you could press the left or the right, and you can kind of go through different displays and what you want to display there. Press view one more time, a speedometer will come up, and then you can also press it one more time and you have a tachometer, which is definitely the screen that I would probably leave it up on, just since I'm a car guy and I'd like to know what's going on. Over here you have a temperature gauge, and over here is your gas gauge, and you have some pretty cool little elements over there to either side of the actual screen itself. Upper dash is nice and soft to the touch, and you have a little bit of storage up here. You have your rear view mirror, a couple of air vents above the infotainment screen. We kind of have the main menu over here with the radio. We have all of our presets that pops up over here. Lots and lots of possibilities for presets here. We have our source. You can see we have a Sirius XM and everything. And you can pick up a station list over here and also manually tune it if you'd like. There is a tune knob and a volume knob within this screen, which is pretty awesome. It also is sort of like a touchless system to some extent. So if you kind of swipe your hand like this, you can actually change the different menus, and in certain screens it'll kind of just swipe back and forth like so. Pretty neat system there. We have the phone screen, the navigation, which this car is not equipped with it, but you can use the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto for navigation. We have the driver's assistance screen, which you can activate and deactivate various systems, as you can see. Going over, you have the media. The App Connect is for the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We also have a vehicle screen, so you can see your tire pressure monitoring, and any messages or warnings that'll come up will get displayed right there. Then we also have our driving data, which is our just sort of trip computers, which you can also get up in the center display up there. If you go back to menu, you can see our sound settings. You can also control the climate control through the center screen, and there are also sort of physical buttons down below. We have the fan speed over here, the two temperatures, since this is a dual zone climate control, and then sort of where you want the air to blow. Going over, you also have our settings, which you can go through quickly. And that pretty much does it. Pretty simple screen. We also have our gauge dimming up here. The audio, you can also mute the volume right here. And then we also have a sort of garage door home link right there. So, yeah, pretty simple screen, very easy to get used to. You know, you have touch sensitive shortcuts to either side of the volume and tune knob. And yeah, pretty simple screen. Taking a look down below, we have our climate control. We have our temperatures to sort of like a slider on the bottom, and you can also tap too if you'd like. The fan speed is also a slider, but again, you can also tap, and then this is where you can adjust where you want the air to come out. We have defrosters over here and our 3-stage heated seats for both front passengers. Again, like I said earlier, we have an 8-speed automatic, and here is the gear shifter for that. We have a rear view camera with adjustable guidance lines, and the parking sensors will also activate when you put it into reverse. You also have drive, and then if you bump it down once more while you're in drive, that will put the transmission into a sporty mode. With a start-stop button over here, electronic parking brake. We can also turn on and off your start-stop system and the parking sensors. I meant to leave this forward so that we could see the little storage tray. It also doubles as a wireless charging pad. We have 2 USB-C inlets and a 12-volt socket too. Now we have this nice little rotary dial here to go through all of your different driving modes. So we have a snow mode, and we get a pretty cool visual for each. Then we have sort of a normal everyday driving mode. So we have our eco, normal, sport, or a custom mode, which you can adjust as you see. We also have an off-road mode as well as a custom off-road mode, and again, you can adjust all of that good stuff for your custom off-road mode. And once you put it in just the normal off-road mode, sort of everything within the screen turns into this yellow highlight, which is really neat, just like it did in the gauge cluster. So that's a pretty cool feature of this vehicle. Taking a look down here, we have 2 cup holders and a little place to put pens or pencils. A nice center console with a little bit of storage inside. Passenger area has a nice little bit of trim and a glove box, which is pretty spacious inside. We have our visors with a mirror and light for either side, and of course our full panoramic sunroof. We'll get right back to that once the shade opens. But we also have some lighting in here, all LED, all the rest of your lighting controls over here. These 2 buttons here will control the sun shade for the sunroof, and these will control the glass portion of the sunroof for both tilting and sliding. And take a look at that, pretty large panoramic sunroof, and it definitely livens up an otherwise pretty dark interior. But that pretty much does it for all the features of the 2023 Volkswagen Tiguan. Let's get it out on the road and see how it drives. Alrighty. So let's take this Tiguan for a little drive. Now, we are going to get this Tiguan through a couple of different situations. We'll probably have about, a little over a 10-minute test drive. And we'll first take it around to this dead end over here so we can test out the turning circle. For those of you city goers, that'll be a good test for you guys to get, in and out of parallel parking. You want to make sure your car has a good turning circle. After that, we'll get it onto more of a main road, so hopefully get up to 45, 50 miles an hour. We'll see what it's like at those speeds. And finally, we're going to end up on a back road, where we'll do an acceleration test, as well as getting around some turns in the back roads, lots of elevation change on the road, and also a pretty bumpy section of the road. So we'll also get a chance to test out the suspension comfort. So here is our turning circle test. Yeah, so it does pretty good. Not the best in the world, definitely not the worst, but I'd say about average for an SUV like this. First things you notice off the bat, the throttle input could be pretty sharp. Now we are starting off in eco mode, since some people who actually own Tiguans have told me that that is actually the best mode to drive these in, as far as smoothness and comfortability and everything like that. So we're going to give that a test. When we do our acceleration tests, we're obviously going to put it into sport mode, kind of hold the gears a little bit longer within the transmission, so we get a faster acceleration. But yeah, now that we have it up to almost 50 miles an hour, it is pretty quiet in here. Just a little bit of tire noise, a little bit of road noise, not really anything coming from these mirrors, which is good. You can barely hear the cars, the oncoming cars passing. I'd say it's a pretty good noise insulation in this car. And it has a pretty nice steering ratio too. Pretty quick. The steering wheel is also very comfortable to hold in your hands because it's a little bit thicker than a steering wheel that you would get on a sort of non-R-line Tiguan, I guess you could say. But this feels really good in your hands. Now there is just a little bit of tire noise going on, and I have noticed that the Tiguans throughout the years, I think this generation came out in 2018, they are a little bit noisy from the engine, but as you see just cruising around, once you get up to speed, it's really not an issue at all. As you can see, the start-stop system is activated. The engine is not running. And the starter works pretty quickly, starting the vehicle up. So now we'll put it into the sport mode. As you can see, everything turns red, which is pretty neat. We'll get up to 25 and sort of mash it, and we'll see what happens. So not too bad of acceleration. And the 8-speed transmission did a pretty good job of switching up the gears for me, and it got us right into the quickest gear, and we took off relatively quick. 184 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque is just about where this class of vehicle is at. Torque is probably a little bit more than some of its competitors. Maybe the horsepower a little bit less, so it is pretty much on par. But you could really tell once it got out of, maybe we were in second gear, once it got out of second gear and into third, it really started pulling pretty good. And that's usually where these turbocharged 4-cylinders from Volkswagen, Audi shine, sort of when you're going a little bit faster and on the highway, speeds. These 2 liters are really, really torquey and good engines. Now, between the sport and eco mode, I don't really have that much of a difference in the steering feel as far as firmness goes. So it does feel pretty much the same, maybe a little bit more firm in the sport mode. It'll also hold the gears a little bit longer, like I said before, and the throttle does get a little bit sharper. But that is pretty much the only thing that happens once you press it over, put it over into sport mode. Now, since this car came out in 2018, it definitely has gotten more refined as far as the power plant goes. When they came out in 2018, probably through 2021, sort of the pre-facelift Tiguan, it was a little bit rough around the edges with the drivetrain. The 2-liter was a little bit jerky in conjunction with that 8-speed automatic. It wasn't the smoothest combination ever. But for the most part, that seems to have smoothed out pretty nicely. And this is a pretty solid car to drive. You can tell that the chassis and the whole setup, the platform of this vehicle is very solidly made. Just coming up here, we'll kind of switch back over to normal mode. And we have a pretty rough stretch of road coming up. There's lots of patchwork, lots of potholes, and that's pretty good for us because we get to test out how this vehicle rides. Now, we do have some pretty large 19-inch wheels, which does hinder ride quality just a bit, rather than, if you were to get the 18-inch wheels on this car. But it's really not a bother. This car rides pretty good. It's not smooth as a pillow, but it is a pretty comfortable car. And it's a pretty good mix up of, on this particular R-Line black, and it's a pretty good mixture of comfort and sport with the suspension feel. It's not totally comfortable, it's not totally sporty, it's somewhere in the middle. Now, the seats are also pretty comfortable. You have the 2-way lumbar, which is nice, and you can also pick up the front of the seat independent from the whole rest of the seat frame, which again is a nice comfort option. For me especially too, because if you don't have that sort of lift on the front of the seat cushion, I used to have a Jetta GLI, and that vehicle actually didn't have that feature where just the front portion of the seat lifted up, and my legs tended to get a little bit tired, but I'm glad to see that the Tiguan does have that. Pretty composed around the corner, hitting those manhole covers too, so that's pretty good. Yeah, pretty nice and stylish car to drive around, especially with that R-Line black package. I'm usually not the biggest fan of a completely blacked out car like this, but this one actually does look pretty good. One small acceleration up the hill here. Alrighty, so now that we're back into our sort of home base, I'm gonna wrap up thoughts on the Tiguan. Now, the Tiguan has always been a really solid, roomy choice, especially with this new generation from 2018 and newer. It's always been just a really roomy SUV, especially for its segment, and that continues on with this car. And this SE R-Line Black just elevates that to a new sort of very nicely styled element too. As before, the Tiguan was kind of a boring looking SUV, a very conservatively styled, which is honestly kind of what I liked in my vehicles. But some people may say, the RAV4 looks more sporty, looks blah blah blah. Yeah, I think this adds a little bit of flair to the Tiguan, which is definitely a welcome change. So with that being said, I hope you have enjoyed the 2023 Volkswagen Tiguan in the SE R-Line Black trim level just as much as I have, and I also hope you stay with us here at Ty Drives for more videos just like this one.